Angry Bike Mechanic, y'all. I want to show you do the Shimano bottom up bleed. I've had a couple of conversations about that this week. So I think that's something you ought to know how to do. And it's so simple. You still want to use that funnel for the gravity bleed, but even the guys over at Shimano aren't truly doing this gravity bleed the way they say they are. So take a look at this. All right, so here is the oil being pushed up into the funnel. Notice the stopper is not in there. The stopper is just aside. I put the stopper in after I have finished pushing that old fluid up through. Down here, I'm actually using an old RockShox syringe that was never used for the RockShox reverb oil. So mineral oil is interesting. The Shimano mineral oil has additives. It's actually kind of a crazy concoction of stuff. So you need a syringe that's got a gasket that's not made from nitrile, not your typical oil gasket. Ideally, if you can find a syringe that doesn't have a gasket, like with the Magura bleed kit, that's the ideal syringe because it won't wear out. Even these get a little sticky in there. So anyway, I fill the syringe up, let the air settle out, crack this open with my 7mm, and then I draw the fluid back in a little bit here. Let's see. And try to suck the air out if there is any air, but just draw some of that fluid back up. So you don't want to be pushing a fresh bubble into the system. So make sure as you attach this and crack that open that you're drawing air into the syringe and not pushing any fresh air into the brake system. So anyway, as I push down here, I'm going to see this old fluid rise to the top. And notice that darkening of that fluid is actually a phenomenon. I'll post a link to my website with a little bit of write-up on it. It's a phenomenon known as blackening. It actually comes from heat and pressure on hydraulic oil. So Shimano mineral oil, pretty good culprit for this stuff. So bleed your brakes often. If you're on your bike a lot and you're running Shimano brakes, bleed the brakes often. All right, so basically, that's pretty much the gist of it. Nothing complicated. The idea is to reduce the amount of air that is going into the system. And by pushing the fluid up, you're moving the same direction as the bubbles are going, which is up. So doing a gravity bleed is actually kind of counterproductive in a system like this because there's so little fluid. Air bubbles kind of act like blockages if they're in the line. So they're not really going to flow up or down if the oil is flowing in the opposite direction. It's just kind of counterproductive. So do a bottom up bleed. That might fix some of the issues you're having if you are having issues with your brakes. Anyway, one last thing I gotta show you. All right, so at some point you're gonna cap off that or seal that bleed nut down at the caliper. Move and wiggle your line. Move the caliper, or don't move the caliper, but wiggle your lever, sorry, your master cylinder, and get all those extra bubbles that might be in this area, get those up and out. And do that several times during the bleed process. That way you can get any air that's lodged in the master cylinder up into this reservoir and out of the system. So anyway, that's the last of that tip. Bottom up bleed, guys. Angry Bike Mechanic.